add to stream. I have coloured these correctly. So this is not just me randomly colouring those. It's like on the chapter on FE, it will say, oh, it's this, you get a lot of activity there. And in the chapter on the ISTJ, it will show there's a lot of activity there. So that area, attend to social feedback and feel embarrassed. That's usually an FE area. Those are the FE areas in pink. But it's also active in, that's why I've done it in green, because green is SI. And so we see here, this is sort of like EEG proof of SI. You've got the imaginative aspect of SI with the build, rotate, image, visualize impression. Go right in and then have it refocus. Right, build, rotate, image. It doesn't help that I have it in a manky old slip cover. Right. So, there we go. So that part of the brain, attend to social feedback. That is active in ISTJ, even though it's FE allergic. So FE allergic in other ways. So the FE allergic in ISTJ is more about, let's see, more about reduced affect display, the lack of emotional expressivity that you get in ISTJ, and it's going about things in the wrong way by being a little bit too pedantic. Oh, you don't want to do that like that, you want to do that like that. But they're actually like trying to help people, but just coming across as pedantic and as a know-it-all. So, again, the attending to social feedback, because they wish to belong and fit in, even ISTJ. But they're not gonna. It's not like FJ where they're really like reading the affect display. It's like there's little things they're not going to pick up, but it's like if someone says to them, "Oh, I didn't approve of the way you did that job, and you didn't do it in the right way," or someone gives them a pat on the back, it's like INTJ will give them monkeys if they don't respect the person. It's like it's a bit, again, temperament. Try to disprove temperament. Right, cooperation. So I've written here, and I always try to be honest. So it doesn't have to be that a value, because that's assertive TI, where a value can only go in one box. It can only go in one box. That's so much assertive TI. There, going towards OCD, a bit pathological. You know, that's pathological thinking, right? Oh, it can only go in one little box. So corporation, SI value, and an FE one. So even though, because this is descriptive, we're not just making it up. If we're making it up, then we can make it, this can only be in this box. It can't go in the other box, and not making it out of thin air. This is descriptive. We're describing people with brains where there's a difference between an instinct, which is limbic, and the cerebral cortex. Sorry, cortices, there were two of those. Yeah, so SI value and FE value. So even though ISTJ, SIT, the contender guardian, is FE allergic, it is still cooperative. There we go. It is still cooperative. That's something that you can falsify. Find these ISTJs, see if they're still cooperative. Cooperative as in sort of by the book and wanting to follow procedure. And that's consistent with the ISTJ having high activity in EEG region T5, which Dario Nardi labels attend to social feedback and feel embarrassed. So now we can get onto subfunctions, and then a bit more will come out. This SI is tricky to describe. There are 3 different kinds of SI. Like we know these are all subfunctions, so I'm just going to go in a bit more. And I'm going to go for others. If I do it like that, that's enough. Oh yeah, then I'll get into. So there's 3 kinds of SI. There's what I call the. Shall we go in order? Well, if we're going in order, the 3 kinds of SI, you've got the Jungian SI, which is the SI imaginative, which is that idiosyncratic artistic vision, like the SI imaginative. That's the Jungian SI. Then we have the SI, which is pretty much what I described before, which is like the core SI of the guardian instinct. Like Van der Hoop nailed that. I mean, Van der Hoop, 19 whatnot, Like this is guardian stuff. This is instinct. Right? That's that bit of SI is in there. And it's this subfunction system allows me to get these three flipping definitions of SI involved. And then Kersey picks up on that, and the MBTI people put SI in that. Oh, yes. So, SI is not memory. But SI draws on memory. Why does SI draw on memory? Because what worked is in the past. And you go to the past to what worked. So the instinct is, oh, I don't want to mess this up. I want to go to what worked. Oh, what did I do last time? So it draws on the past. SI draws on the past. The SI instinct, that conservative instinct, is drawing on the past. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Go to what has worked. Whereas SE draws on, actually it draws a lot on, anyway, I'll talk about that when I get to it. So you've got these three kinds of SI. We've got this kind of Jungian S. We've got the Jungian SI. We have sort of like the socionic comfort sensing kind of SI, which is a little bit messed up, but there's a bit of a Kersey aspect in there because it's a little bit self-contradictory. Who'd have thunk it? Socionics being contradictory again in its functions. There's an example of subjective thinker. If you start off with dodgy premises, no matter how elaborate the system will be, you'll end up with subjective profiles, a subjective system. You gotta make sure your premises work. Right, you've got to falsify. So this stabilized. This is assertive use of SI. So stabilize to what worked in the past. That is the leadership style of guardians, and make regular. Now, I suppose it would be interesting for, say, Putin when he comes in. ISTJ Putin. If you don't know that Putin is ISTJ, you don't know temperament. You might know type, but you don't know temperament. Because you need to know Enneagram 6 as well. He's Camphobic 6. Like, and you should know, like, he has fear in his eyes, but he's Camphobic 6. So he feels like a boss. But Modi's just like the boss in his eyes all the while. Anyhow, so the reason I bring that up is that for him, when it's like, oh, I'm going to sort this country out, what worked in the past? Well, for him, it's like what didn't work in the past. Socialism did not work. So it's conservative, to make regular, will to schedule, to impose order. So order is safe. So this is again about cause and effect. So sociologists would look at all of this regular sort of. So we use Putin as an example. He's a person in the news. So because sociologists will type him as LSI, which is logic then sensor, and KBN, Kersey Brown's Nardi and me, typing in. So you could, for the B part, you can have Berens on there. So KB2N. So for that, we were typing as ISTJ because we know the Guardian temperament is instinctively conservative. You don't know the political spectrum in Russia. It's his party, United Russia, in the middle. On the left, you have communists, and on the right, you have like those ultra nationalists, like someone like Rogozin, like who's a blowhard. He got sacked for being basically cantankerous, not being able to get on with NASA. You know, leave the war out of it. So he was replaced, Rogozin. So with Putin, you've got this. So you look at all these structures and all of these behaviors and getting everything organized, and this attention to detail. You look at the behavior and you go, oh, that's very structural logic. It's what lies behind it. So the will to schedule, to impose order. Order is safer than chaos. So the motivation is order. What lies behind the order? Safety. It's safe to be organized. And then you look at the organizer, but we're looking at the root cause. We're looking at the instinct behind these actions. If you want to look at actions, then we can go to Kersey and we can look at cooperative versus utilitarian. And we can say that's cooperative and that's by the book. And so we can, but Kersey has this other side to him about the motivations. And here we've got the motivations informing the cognitive processes. So the will to schedule and impose order. Order is safer than chaos. And we see this in the way ESTJs assert their SI with their asserted TE. Again, self-discipline as well. I'm going to make sure I get my numbers of hours writing Zoom. I'm going to do this. I'm going to be dedicated to get that in there. I like it when I go into ISTJ mode, but I can get too admin. Like, so for example, recently I thought, oh no, I want to get this file formatted in the right way, and I don't want to have to reformat it again. So I'm going to copy it across to all of these other ones and all of these projects in the future. Like, I've just wasted 2 hours doing all these templates for a Jungian profile because I wanted it in the right format in order to so that I can read it. So it's, for me, it's like if it's organized on the page, it's organized in my mind. So I can get into that sort of like ISTJ mode of sort of like, and also the Enneagram 1 where I'm sort of like too much organization. I'll keep it up, but it's just tertiary SI. So, and then that sort of assertive SI, doing it to what work. Oh, you know what I should have put in there as a value for SI, but I'm saying it now. Health and safety. It's almost like when you see stuff in Russian documentaries, it's like, oh, health and safety has come to Russia. Because they didn't really have that in the Soviet Union. We've got warning stickers, radar, radioactive, radiation hazard. Do SIA to others by impressing upon them to be reliable, regular. You're really asserting the value onto others. You irresponsible so-and-so. What's the value? Responsibility. Especially if the other person then has consequences for others. Again, even ISFJ, SIFX, will say assertively, you don't do it like that. Why don't you read the instructions? You're always trying to do it your own way. Why can't you just read the instructions? Do you know more than the person who's written the instructions? There you go. The leadership style stabilizer. Oh, dear me. Will to schedule to impose order. Again, you can look at that and go, order is very thinky, but it's why. Why is there the order? It's the stability. This is why Linda Barron's called the guardians of stabilizers. But, you know, Kersey came up with it first as the name for the... And she always gives Kersey credit, so they are still the Kersey temperaments. The stabilizer, that's leadership style stabilizer. So that we can see, that's the temperament. Right? And we can also say, okay, let's try to falsify this. Go out there, find all these people that are like this, and probably about 50% of people, not just people in typology, because there's hardly any guardians in typology, but actual real people, not people in a particular profession, not the people that take the MBTI, and find all of these people, and then think about how are we going to model this? You know, find, are they actually conventional? Are they actually orthodox? Why are they orthodox? Ask them. Find all of those traits. See if the other traits come into it. And then does it become a motivational configuration? And, you know, read Kersey's Guardian chapter and go, okay, this is all coming together. Right. Try to falsify it. And then you can, one of the ways to falsify it is to look for, we're going to do it like, now we're getting on to the imaginative. And this is the part where I prove to socionics. Right, okay, this, where socionics says, with its asinine ENTP made up BS, because that's what Auschwitz was in the ENTP, where it's saying the internal-external dichotomy of which is really, really asinine. Sensing is external. So sensing has no subjective component to it. Well, this is where you're wrong. Here is some evidence from Patterson. ISFP is ISFP AF. Like, he's one of those clever ISFPs. He's got a PhD in philosophy. He's got he did a lot of research into rhyming types. I'm not reading. I've read his rhyming book twice. Useful. And he wears a cool leather jacket. But Victor did in one photo as well. But like Patterson, he looks like an accommodator artisan. And he has that phrase, there are no rules, only tools. There we go. So, whereas the Guardian point of view is that sort of photograph I saw outside of an Indian factory, which was like the right tool for the right job in the right way. So here. So, sensing can be subjective. It has a subjective side to it. And I'll give you some examples. Subjective sensation stroke instinct. So that's Jung and Van der Hoek, where the instinct is Van der Hoek, sensation is Jung, and I'm calling it instinctive. And people don't know what that means. Sensory instinct. Oh, I've had to write this down. So sensory imagination affected by past personal experience, related to beauties in the eye of the beholder. And this is where Pat Patterson will give an example. After I've written this subjective. SI is subjective because SI imaginative, Jung's definition of SI is subjective. This is a little bit circular, isn't it, by me? Like, this is more like here, but then I will give that, for example. SI is subjective because SI imaginative. Jung's definition is subjective because imagination is subjective. Is it not? Ask Guardians what they think of sensory description in novels. They like it because it is evocative to them. You can go out and test that. Right, then here we go. This is the bit from Pat Patterson. On page 4 of Songwriting Without Boundaries by ISFP Pat Patterson. FISX, accommodator, artisan. When a lyric stimulates and provokes your senses, you draw the images from your own experiences. Right? You're hearing it, you're sensing it. Auditory is a sense. You're hearing it. When a lyric stimulates and provokes your senses, you draw the images from your experiences. You fill Mike Reed's and Alan Shambin's words with your stuff. Yeah, the italics were italicized by him. They involve you, so the song becomes about you. That's the power of sense-bound writing. It pulls the listener into the song using his own memories as the song's material. So the listener's experience, so this is now me, so the listener's experience has a subjective side to it, consistent with folks reacting differently to the same music. It's fair to say each person's experience is different due to that experience being subjectively colored by his/her emotional reaction, which is bound up with the sensor. In sensory instincting, the emotional reaction to the stimulus is bound up with the stimulus. This reflects the brain's division between limbic emotion and cortical feeling. Yes, and there's even a shortcut where the sensing goes straight to the thalamus and the amygdala before it goes to the neocortices. Right. Yeah. Look. Yeah. That I'm doing more in the this one. Remember when I talked about the brain, introducing mind and brain? There, I'll just read that bit out. It has been discovered, however, that in addition to this indirect route, thalamus to cortex to amygdala, which should be cortices, there is a direct route from the thalamus to the amygdala. In other words, the amygdala, part of the limbic system, responds emotionally to objects in the world, even before the cortex has experienced and recognized them. Right, so the sense has gone straight to the emotional reaction before it's got to the posh part of the brain, which originally stood for port, outboard, starboard, home, so you could see the coast on the ships. Responds emotionally to objects in the world even before the cortex has experienced and recognized. Fight or flight response, heart rate and blood pressure with large muscles prepare for action. That's SE, so the next one. Right. The brain's division between limbic emotion and cortical feeling. Yes, it's not a neat division, but welcome to human beings. We're not a nice, neat socionics model of information elements. Specifically here, I'm criticizing information socionics. not other schools. And this might explain why other schools have different type images from classical socionics. And there's all these differences between the schools in socionics. People might want to consider why. There are not different schools of Kersey temperaments, which have fundamentally different images. Right, so then that's about the subjective aspect of, or the imaginative aspects of SI, about the build, rotate image. Well, you're doing that mentally. I mean, internally, yeah. This all occurs inside one's head. Right, so that's a subjective component, internal component. And then all four types have high activity in O1 and O2. So SI DOMs, and SI is the strongest unvalued function and third strongest. Yeah, third strongest overall. So it's in ISTP and ISFP, it's with ISTP it's TI, then SE, then SI. That at least that part of SI, which is the imaginative part, the part which is like diametric opposite temperament, not so much, but this part, this imaginative part. Yes, 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 yes. There, you can see that. Go to there. I should put that in the description. Plato.stanford.eu entries qualia. Qualia. I didn't have the time to put it in what it is, but yes. Qualia. Qualia. Yeah. So, and then this is my bit that you do get this. You get to say that ISFJ will write poetry on an amateur level. Many imaginative guardians are frequently uncreative as a profession because they see the arts as too risky a career. Also, the temperament goes to what has already been created, i.e. the conventional. I'll say that again. Also, the temperament goes to what has already been created, i.e. the conventional. Again, the needs, the motivation is to go to what is work, not to try and do something new. That's risky. So guardians are more likely to be derivative classical, and they want to be classical, emulate good form. A lot of writers, when they start out, emulate other writers. So ISFP, with its Fish's Water SI, is more likely than ISFJ to use imaginative SI to create art, at least professionally. Right, then we got harmonizer. Right, so this is the part from this is the part from where it's like getting the right part. Again, you can get this from Kersey though. Yeah, because the stuff in the socionics definition of SI, which they just put everything sensory related in there except from blood and guts, resting bears kind of SE. And you get sort of self-contradictory stuff. Whereas this is what is relevant. And again, it goes to the core values. Remember about the self-preservation and all of that? So, and then what you observe from guardians. You can interview these people. They finely grained sensitivity to inner physical harmony, disharmony. SIH, SI harmonizing in SJs, especially in the SI DOM, equates to his, her caring sensitivity to the physical well-being of himself or herself. Let's go with her, of herself. That of others, which is also, it's not, I'm not saying that is all that I was knackered for space and trying to squeeze it in, but also is there in the romance style of caregiver, and in Kersey called it the helpmate, and how the external environment can affect his, her mood. And so I'll put this line in. I'm not compatible with this wallpaper. I don't know if I'll use that. I'm not going to use that line in Warmest Housemates because you've got to think about the logistics of it. That means that we're going to have some wallpaper up there and go to a particular location where we didn't like the wallpaper, and then just to put that line in. I'm not compatible with this wallpaper. Right. It makes me feel queasy. It's all like a subjective reaction. He, she can be found. So the point is that the actual stimulus and the reaction to the stimulus is so bound up and connected that you can't disentangle it. You get that with disgust. You like pick up a stone and there's all worms or something disgusting underneath. It's like, can you separate what you're immediately sensing from your reaction, your instinctual reaction? Can you really separate that? It's hard to. Or even if you see someone who ticks all your boxes physically, it's like, wow, can you really separate that? Or you're with a friend and that friend sees the same person, it's like, are you crazy? Right. So yeah, here, not Capitalist Walker. He, she can be a food connoisseur. I spent a little bit of time thinking about this. He, she can be a food connoisseur who is sensitive to how well prepared a meal is. This can lead him, her, being a fussy eater or unsatisfied by her own cooking, which others find satisfactory. When guardians feel a little off health-wise, they'll likely tell you. Relatedly, and to quote collaborator artisan Jeff Miller, guardians will tell you about their medical problems because they're concerned about it. I mean, that's just it's true. So it shows that that is a focus of attention of the guardian. It goes to that self-preservation and the physical health, that cohort 1 value. Yeah, and this is not ranked. These are all, like, cohort 2 can be as important as cohort 1, say for an SFJ. Like, it's sort of equal. And it's probably right down to it, like, a lot of that will maybe it's not really like tiered. But I think for most of them it would be sort of like that and that. So then we have, yeah, I'll go with that side. Right, now this is about the logistical protector. So this is like, you can see this in Kersey. So this is why socionics people, they really need to read Kersey's book, Flipping, carefully, and really think about what is he describing here. Right, when he describes the logistical role of protecting an ISFJ and all of the guardians in medicine, and it's like, that's SI with FE, doing that for other people. That I mean, if you're going to match that as functions, it's like, that is definitely SIH with FE. So again, it's and also I need to stress the difference between the roles and types. Kersey came up with a system of motivations. Well, he observed the system of motivations through the centuries, and so he had the temperaments, and then he came up with a system of socially intelligent roles. But there's a system of, okay, you might have this Jungian individuation pattern, this sort of like, you are naturally, say, an accommodator guardian, accommodator in that, in terms of your reserved and your informing, and you're a guardian in terms of your essential motivators, trust, yearn, seek, prize, and empirically in terms of a concrete cooperator. So in terms of your empiricals, you are reserved, informing, cooperative, and concrete. Concrete in words, cooperative in words and tools. You are informing with reserved socially in most situations, and you're informing in the way you interact with others. That's the empiricals. And then you can go further, and then you have all of the motivational stuff on the inside. All of the trust, yearn, seek, prize, trust authority, yearn to belong, seek security, prize gratitude. Now the gratitude can come through in interactions as well. And so you have all of that there for ISFJ. And then you have functions as well. Whereas other typologies, you're just going on the functions. So how do you know you're describing the functions right? Whereas with Kersey, you can type the people without the functions. You can use those dichotomies and go, oh, this is an accommodator guardian. The intersection style's right, the motivations are right. So it's like, I know I'm modeling the right person. And then I can go, oh, I can think about how this person uses SI, and theoretically this person uses SI. Then I can look at other FJs, or rather in Kersey, directive idealists, abstract cooperators with their trust yearn seek prize, trust intuition, yearn for romance or connection, idealist, prize recognition, they like special identity, and trust yearn seek identity, a little bit flourish, and prize. I've forgotten what the prize is. It's prize recognition. That's it. Prize recognition. Trust intuition. Yearn for romance. Seek identity and prize recognition. That's it. That's what's on the table which I memorized. Romance identity recognition. And then impact, stimulation. So there's that bit of force sensorics that you can get in SE assertive, impact. There you go. Belonging, romance. It's a quite four-ish description, but it does vary. Enthusiastic, especially ENFP. Yeah, you should look at. If you look at Kersey's ENFP description, that's his ENFP. I would say his INFP is a little bit ethical, but I would think that his ENFP, ENFJ, and INFJ descriptions, especially ENFP and ENFJ, that's something else you can use as well. You can use those dichotomies. And remember, MBTI JP is not measuring rationality and irrationality. It's measuring how organized you are in the world. At least that's empirical. And if you do it properly, like check up on someone to find out how judgy you are and in which situations they're organized. So an INTJ might not care about being late for work because their judginess is different, whereas an ISFJ does care about being late for work because they don't want to disapprove of other people. So then it's not a case of, but ISFJ doesn't lead with a rational function. No, it doesn't, but it does care about what other people think and belonging. So the behavior, not the internal cognitive process, the external behavior is, I'm going to turn up judging time because I don't want to be looked down upon by my workmates for being late. Whereas INTJ doesn't need this. They probably have an understanding with his or her boss of, look, I'll get the work done. I'm late, I can go early, I get as long as I get it done. That's what matters. So the behavior will look P-ish, but it's the INTJ is J about what's important to the INTJ, and their J-ness is the strategic planning. So strategic planning versus being scheduled. But the SJ is being scheduled because very much thinking about what will other people say, what will the neighbours say. That's frequently what ISFJs will say. Again, logistical protector. Again, Kersey's social role of logistical protector. Yes. Yeah, that is a subdivision of logistical provider, where you have the provider supplier, which ESFJ is best at, and provider protector. It is in the Terms and Personology, his final book, which SFJs are predisposed to. Draws an SI and FE to protect the physical well-being of others. Remember, that's a value, the physical well-being, and have that sensitivity to how someone, especially ISFJ and ESFJ, they need to be able to with the FE, introject the feeling states of others, especially in terms of physical discomfort. Function-wise, the accommodator guardian, SIFX, the MBTI preferences are ISFJ, deal with it, with the J, you're just going to be externally organized. You're not measuring the internal rationality, irrationality of somebody. It's very hard to come up with those questions and have them fit and have those questions be suitable for people of other types to take. Predisposed to enact the role better than any other type. Now, the other kind of nursing, so for example, many nurses and medical doctors are guardians. Now, this is for SFPs. They're better off in the emergency room, or we call it casualty in England, where SFPs have the artisan temperament to make very good nurses under pressure in a medical emergency. Also, artisans make good surgeons for that reason as well, being very good under pressure. And you can say that being in an SE state where it's just like SE will draw on. SE is not hand-to-eye coordination, but it will draw on it. It's the best function to get someone to concentrate on what he or she is doing in the moment and being very good under stress. The stress is stimulating. It's being alive, being in the moment. Lots of people in sport are not as good when the pressure is on. But there's certain people, big match players, the more the pressure, the better. Right. In contrast, NFs, especially NFJs, are predisposed to help the mental health of others. It's just a natural predisposition. And then there's a sort of a job that they don't have to do the job of counselling and because you might have a situation, I've heard this from INFJs, where it's just too much baggage to like come home after counselling someone and you're bringing home all of this sort of like bad stuff that people told you. It's like you can't live with it. So even though they're set up to be a good counsellor, like it just gets them down. It's just too much, and don't go into that line of work because they're just too sensitive to it. And then I'll also say here that in a bit of a theory of mine that the accommodators are more likely to draw on the harmonizing subfunctions of all the functions, and if someone's an initiator, they're more likely to draw on the assertive subfunctions. So, for example, the initiators are one from each temperament. ESTP, initiator artisan. Initiator guardian is ESTJ. Initiator idealist is ENFJ. Initiator rational is ENTJ. And so by initiator, they are expressive and directive. So ENTJ. So let's say ENFJ. ENFJ is more likely to use assertive FE and assertive NE. And sometimes assertive SE. There we go. So I think that is pretty much it. So yes, it's been a long one today. But there we go. That is me on SI, the essence of Guardian. And if you want a better description of what SI is, just go read Kurz's chapter on Guardians. And please understand me too.